You think I've got nothing left? You'll see how wrong you are. That's what I wanted to say. Instead, the words caught in my throat the moment Amanda crossed my living room, dragging Philip behind her like a shadow. They didn't knock, didn't ask. They stormed in, eyes blazing with that mixture of greed and certainty, like conquerors claiming foreign land. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Amanda looked at me the way strangers do, not daughters. Cold, flat. Dad, you're not the owner here anymore. It's over. You don't belong in this house. For a second, I thought it was some cruel joke. My Amanda, my only child, the girl I'd raised after her mother died, the one I worked 24-hour shifts for the fire station just to keep food on the table. She was standing there, cutting my life apart with one sentence. Philip smirked, his hand resting on Amanda's shoulder, like he owned her too. You've got nothing, old man. The ticket's ours. You should be grateful. We'll even let you walk out of here with your clothes. I stared at them. Words, sharp as broken glass, echoed in my head. Nothing. You have nothing. I remember the sweat on my back the day I bought that lottery ticket. Just a joke, I told myself. $1's worth of hope. And then the impossible happened. The winning numbers lined up like stars. I'd signed the back without thinking, just habit. Proof of a miracle. Now my miracle was Amanda's poison. She pulled the envelope out of her purse. The ticket folded neatly, her name scribbled on the back like my signature had never existed. I wanted to shout, to rip it from her hand, but my knees locked. She wasn't just stealing paper. She was stealing years, my firehouse nights, the burns on my arms, the loneliness, the sacrifices. The silence stretched until Philip broke it with a laugh. Better get used to cheap beer again, Parker. You're done. They didn't wait for me to answer. They turned, walked down the hallway, and I heard the slam of my own bedroom door as if it belonged to them now. My house, my daughter, my winnings, my life. I sat there in the dim light of the kitchen, the fire helmet on the shelf above me, the same one that had seen me crawl through smoke to save strangers. It used to mean something. Now it mocked me. I whispered to myself, almost like a prayer, You'll see who really has nothing. That night I didn't sleep. I traced every memory, every promise I'd ever made Amanda. And then I remembered, weeks ago, I'd snapped a photo of the ticket with my phone. Clear as day, my signature across the back. It wasn't much, but it was something. For the first time since they walked in, my hand stopped shaking. The ember of a plan lit up inside me, quiet but relentless. Amanda thought she'd taken everything. Philip thought I was finished. But they'd made one mistake, leaving me alive. And I was about to remind them that a man who's walked through fire doesn't fear the smoke. The photo was still in my phone. My proof, my weapon. The war had just begun. I woke up with the dawn, though woke up isn't the right word. My eyes had stayed open all night, burning as if I'd stared into one of those fires I used to fight. The photo of the ticket glowed on my phone screen, like a match in the dark. Proof, thin, fragile, but mine. I knew I couldn't do this alone. A fight like this needed more than rage. It needed strategy. That's where Trevor came in. Trevor had been the department's go-to lawyer whenever the city tried to cut our pensions. He was younger than me, sharp-eyed, with a patience that could slice arrogance in half. I called him that morning. My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. Trevor, it's Parker. I've got a problem. Big one. He didn't ask for details right away. That's why I trusted him. Come by the office. Bring whatever you've got. By noon, I was sitting across from him. The photo pulled up on my phone. He leaned in, studying the screen, his jaw tightening. That's your signature. Clear as daylight, he said. And they re-signed it? That's fraud. Hearing it from him gave me breath again. Fraud. Not just betrayal. Not just heartbreak. Something with weight in the eyes of the law. Still, Trevor didn't sugarcoat it. It won't be easy. They'll fight. But if you've got the photo, you've got leverage. And leverage is power. Power. I hadn't felt that word in years. On my way out of his office, I called Kristen. She'd been a friend since high school, the kind of person who carried truth like others carried umbrellas. Always ready, always steady. She picked up on the first ring. "Parker, you sound like hell." I told her everything, my voice breaking in places I didn't expect. She didn't gasp or scold. She just listened, and when I finished, she said, "Then we fight back. You're not alone in this. I've got space here if you need a roof." I swallowed hard. The idea of leaving my house, was a knife in my chest. But Kristen's voice was a lifeline. That evening, I returned home for the last time as its owner. Amanda and Philip were in the living room, sipping champagne like royalty. They didn't look at me when I walked past them with a duffel bag. Amanda's laugh rang out, sharp and cruel. "Don't forget your helmet," she called after me, mock sweet. "Might need it when you're crawling back into poverty." I paused by the shelf. The helmet sat there, dusty but proud, scarred with soot from years gone by. I lifted it slowly, holding it under my arm. "This helmet has more honor than you'll ever know," I said, my voice low. For the first time, Amanda flinched. Just a flicker. But I saw it. Kristen welcomed me that night with hot coffee and silence. The kind that heals. She placed a hand on mine and said only one thing. "They don't know who they're dealing with." Trevor filed the first motion the next morning. A petition to freeze the payouts until ownership could be determined. "It'll rattle them," he said. "Money has a way of showing people's true faces." Rattle them. It did, because by the end of the week, Amanda called me for the first time since throwing me out. No greeting, no apology, just a voice full of panic. "Dad, what the hell did you do? The accounts are frozen. I can't touch a dime." Her words were music. I let the silence hang before I answered. "You said I had nothing. Looks like now you do." And then I hung up. That was the moment I knew. The tide had started to turn. But tides can drag people under as quickly as they rise. And Amanda, she was about to learn how deep the undertow could pull. The silence after I hung up on Amanda was sweeter than any victory I'd tasted in years. But I knew it was only the beginning. Money is like oxygen to people like her and Philip. When it's cut off, they start clawing for air. And clawing they did. Kristen kept her ear to the ground. She had friends in town who weren't shy about gossip. And it didn't take long for the stories to reach me. Amanda's shopping sprees ended overnight. The new car payment stalled. Restaurants stopped opening their doors when her credit cards were declined. She blamed everyone but herself. One evening, Kristen slid a newspaper across the table to me. "Front page," she said with a grim smile. There was Amanda, caught by a photographer as she argued with a store clerk, her face twisted in rage. The caption read, "Local lottery winner faces financial freeze." Trevor called later that day. "It's working. The commission is reviewing ownership. With your photo in the timeline, we've got a strong case. But they'll stall, try to intimidate you. Don't let it get to you." I told him I'd been through burning buildings where the roof collapsed inches above my head. A daughter's betrayal hurt worse, but intimidation? That I could handle. The cracks between Amanda and Philip widened fast. He wasn't built for storms. Philip liked smooth seas and easy spoils. When the accounts froze, he saw the iceberg before Amanda did. Kristen, and I spotted him 2 weeks later, slipping out of a bar downtown with another woman on his arm. Younger, flashier, her laugh like glass shattering. He didn't even look over his shoulder. Amanda, though, she looked desperate. I knew because she called me again, voice trembling, trying to mask it with anger. "You think this is funny, don't you? Watching me struggle." I leaned against Kristen's porch railing, staring out at the dark. "Funny? No. Predictable? Absolutely." She went quiet. Then I heard something I'd never expected. A sob. It almost broke me. Almost. But then I remembered the night she stood in my living room, telling me I had nothing. The sound of her laughter echoing while Philip smirked at my ruin. That memory steeled me. "Dad," she whispered, the word cracking. "Can't we work something out?" For a moment, the father in me stirred. I wanted to tell her yes, that we could fix this, that love was stronger than greed. But I knew better now. You already made your deal, Amanda. I said, you chose him. You chose money over me. Now you live with it. I hung up before she could answer. 2 nights later, I got word Philip had packed up and left. No note, no call. Just gone. I sat with Kristen on her back porch, the cool night air wrapping around us. She sipped her tea and shook her head. Snakes never stick around once the basket tips. I chuckled bitterly. He was never in it for her. Just the money. The truth hit me hard. Amanda was alone now. Alone, broke, and cornered. And a cornered animal. That's when it gets dangerous. The next morning, as I poured coffee in Kristen's kitchen, my phone buzzed with a new message. Not from Amanda. From Philip. Meet me tomorrow. Just us. I've got a proposition. Half for you, half for me. She doesn't need to know. I stared at the screen, my blood turning cold. The parasite was circling back. Only this time, he wanted to sink his teeth into me directly. Philip's message burned on my phone like a hot coal. Half for me, half for him. He wasn't even subtle. Just pure greed wrapped in a slick suit. The kind of man who always thought he could buy loyalty, even after stabbing someone in the back. I didn't answer right away. I let him sweat. But the next morning, I drove to the diner he'd named. Neutral ground. Public, but quiet enough for whispers. The bell over the door jingled as I walked in. There he was, sitting in a corner booth, sunglasses on despite the cloudy sky outside. He looked thinner already, his polished edges dulled. No Amanda at his side. Just him and 2 empty coffee cups. He grinned when he saw me. Parker, my man, glad you came. I slid into the booth opposite him without a word. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Look, let's cut the crap. You and I both know Amanda can't handle this. She's emotional, reckless. You've got proof, I've got, well, let's say I've got connections. We work together, split the winnings. 50-50. She doesn't have to know. I stared at him, listening, not moving. He thought silence meant interest. You get back your dignity, I get my share, and she'll thank you later. Hell, you'll be saving her from herself. What do you say? He spread his hands like a magician, revealing the trick. I let the quiet stretch until his grin faltered. Then I leaned forward. You think I fought fires for 30 years just to crawl into bed with snakes like you? I'd rather burn. His smirk twitched into a sneer. Don't play noble with me. Old man, you're broke, living off charity. You need me. That word, need, made my jaw tighten. No, I said evenly. What I need is justice. And you're standing in the way. For a moment, the mask slipped. His eyes went dark, his voice sharper. Careful, Parker. Men like me don't lose. And if you're not with me, he let the threat dangle in the stale air. I pushed back from the booth, stood up slow. Then I guess you're about to learn how it feels. His face twisted, but he stayed seated, muttering something under his breath as I walked out. The rain had started by the time I stepped onto the sidewalk. Drops spattered against the fire helmet I carried tucked under my arm. I held it tighter, like a promise. Back at Kristen's, I told her everything. She shook her head, eyes fierce. He'll turn on her next, mark my words. Men like Philip always do. She was right. By the end of the week, Amanda's world collapsed faster than even I'd imagined. The car repossessed, the house in foreclosure, her so-called friends nowhere to be found. Neighbors watched as movers hauled furniture out of the driveway. People whispered, pointed, gossiped. It was a first public crack in her perfect facade, and I wasn't done yet. Trevor called with more news. The commission was moving faster than expected. The photo of the ticket, my signature, the timelines, it was all too strong to ignore. Stay ready, he warned. Once the verdict comes, the real storm will hit. That night, I sat on Kristen's porch again, helmet beside me, staring into the dark. The sound of cicadas buzzed like static in the air. I thought about Amanda, not as the thief she'd become, but as the girl who used to wait at the window for me to come home from shifts. The girl I'd promised never to fail. But she had failed me. My phone buzzed. A new message. This time from Amanda herself. Dad, please, can we talk? I need your help. I froze, the words cutting through me like glass, because for the first time, she wasn't demanding. She was begging. And I had to decide whether a father's heart could stay cold enough to deny his own child. Her message glared at me from the phone screen. Dad, please, can we talk? I need your help. For a moment, I just stared, unable to breathe. Not long ago, she'd laughed while throwing me out of my own home. Now the tone had shifted. Gone was the arrogance, the taunting. In its place was fear, desperation. Kristen sat across from me at the kitchen table, watching my face. She didn't say a word, just waited. I typed back 2 words. Where and when? We met the next evening at a rundown cafe on the edge of town. No champagne glasses, no designer clothes. Amanda looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair pulled back like she hadn't bothered with mirrors in days. She wore sunglasses, but I could see the redness around her eyes. Dad, her voice cracked. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I didn't know Philip would. She trailed off, shaking her head. I thought we could win. Together. I sat across from her, unmoving. Let her words hang in the air like smoke. You thought you could win. I corrected. Not we. You. And you made sure of it when you told me I had nothing. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I was wrong. I know that now. Please, just share it with me. Half. That's all I'm asking. I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. You want half of a life you already tried to steal from me? You already had everything. Amanda. My house, my name, my trust. And you threw it away. Her hands trembled as she reached across the table. Dad, I'm begging you. I have nothing left. Not the house, not the car, not Philip. Just help me. For a moment, I almost saw the child she used to be, standing on tiptoe to hand me my lunchbox before a shift. My chest ached with a memory. But then I remembered the look in her eyes at night. She stood in my living room, triumphant, declaring me worthless. That memory hardened me again. You think this is about money? I said, it's about truth. And until you can face it, there's nothing left to give you. Her lips parted, trembling. No words came out. I stood, sliding the chair back slowly. You made your choice. Now you live with it. I walked out, leaving her in the dim cafe, shoulders shaking. The door closed behind me with a sharp jingle, final as a gavel strike. Outside, the air felt heavier, but clearer. For the first time, I wasn't just defending myself. I was forcing her to confront the ruin she'd built with her own hands. That night, Kristen said quietly, you did what you had to do. But the ache in my chest didn't leave. A few days later, Trevor called. The commission meets next week. We'll know soon enough. His words steadied me. But before I could answer, a knock rattled Kristen's front door. Not a polite knock, loud, urgent. I opened it to find Philip standing there, his grin oily, eyes glittering with something between desperation and malice. Evening, Parker, he drawled. Mind if we have another chat? Because if you think Amanda's the only one who can make your life hell, you're dead wrong. Philip leaned against Kristen's doorway like he owned it, rain dripping from his slick jacket onto the porch. That grin, smug, practiced, was thinner now, stretched over something brittle. I didn't move. You got 5 minutes. Talk. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Kristen appeared from the kitchen, arms crossed. Philip's eyes flicked to her, then back to me. Private, he said. She stays, I told him flatly. He smirked, but there was no humor in it. Fine. Suit yourself. He dropped into the armchair, sprawled like a king whose crown had slipped. You think you're clever, freezing the accounts, turning the commission against her. But you're forgetting something. Amanda wasn't the only one spending. My name's all over those receipts. You drag her down. You drag me down, too. And I don't go quietly. I studied him, the way his knee bounced, the way his fingers twitched on the armrest. The calm mask was cracking. What exactly are you threatening? I asked. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. I talk. I tell the commission you forged that photo, that you pressured Amanda, that you're an old man chasing ghosts. You think they won't believe me? With the right push, I can drag this through courts for years. You'll die before you see a dime. Kristen stepped closer, her voice ice. You're bluffing. You've got nothing. Philip laughed, short and sharp. Lady, nothing's exactly what I sell. Doubt whispers rumors. It's enough. I don't need truth. I need noise. And noise ruins men. I let his words sink in, then leaned back slowly. You know what noise does in a fire, Philip? It distracts you, confuses you, makes you run the wrong way. But smoke? Smoke tells the truth. And right now you reek of it. His grin faltered. You're broke, I continued. Amanda's broke. The house, the car, all gone. And here you are, begging scraps from the man you tried to rob. Tell me again, who's making noise now? For the first time, he didn't answer. His jaw worked. His eyes darted to Kristen, to the floor, back to me. Finally, he stood, jabbing a finger toward me. This isn't over. You're not winning, Parker. You hear me? You're not winning. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Kristen let out a slow breath. He's unraveling. Good, I said. That means he's dangerous. And desperate. Trevor called the next morning. Be careful. Amanda and Philip are cornered. That's when people make mistakes. But it's also when they lash out. He was right. Within days, Amanda's humiliation became public spectacle. Neighbors lined the street as movers hauled out furniture she couldn't pay for, whispering and pointing. Old friends ignored her calls. The empire she built on my ruin crumbled piece by piece, in full view of the town. It was the second time I'd seen her broken. But this time I didn't look away. Yet even as her facade collapsed, I felt a chill in my chest, because Philip's parting words clung to me like smoke. You're not winning, Parker. The next night, as I left Trevor's office, I noticed a car idling across the street, headlights off, engine humming low. When I stepped onto the sidewalk, it rolled forward slowly, keeping pace with me. I gripped the strap of my duffel tighter, my pulse steady but sharp. Whoever was behind, that wasn't just watching. They were waiting. The car crept along the curb like a shadow that refused to let me go. I kept walking, my pace steady, not giving it the satisfaction of a glance. Years on a fire line had taught me one thing. Panic feeds flames. At the corner, I ducked into a gas station. Neon buzz overhead, throwing pale light across the lot. The car slowed, then rolled past, disappearing into the night. Kristen picked me up minutes later. You're sure it was your imagination? She asked as we pulled away. I shook my head. No imagination burns gas like that. Someone's watching. Question is, who? Her lips pressed in. We didn't need to say the names. Amanda, Philip, both had motives. Both were spiraling. The next morning I got my answer. Amanda was waiting outside Trevor's office, her arms wrapped around herself like armor. No makeup, no fancy clothes, just a worn jacket and eyes that looked 10 years older than they had weeks ago. Dad, she said when she saw me. Her voice was hoarse, thin. Can we talk? Please. Trevor glanced at me. I nodded. He stepped back inside, giving us space. Amanda wrung her hands. I know what you think of me. And you're right. I was stupid. I was greedy. Philip told me we could have everything, and I believe him. But now he's gone, and everyone's laughing at me. I can't even walk into the grocery store without whispers. Her eyes welled. For a heartbeat, I saw her as a little girl again, holding my hand at her mother's funeral, clutching me like I was the only steady ground in her world. But then the memory of her voice in my living room. You have nothing, stabbed through me. I can't change the past, she continued, but maybe we can fix the future. Just give me something, enough to start over. I'll disappear if you want, I swear. I took a long breath, staring at the ground between us. Amanda, I spent my whole life giving you something. Food, a roof, my time, my love, and when it mattered most, you repaid me with betrayal. Her tears fell. Dad, I'm sorry. The words were real. Or maybe I just wanted to believe they were. But I shook my head. It's not me you owe, it's yourself. And until you face that truth, no money in the world will save you. She staggered back, like I'd stripped the last thread of hope from her. Please, she whispered, please don't do this. I turned away, my voice heavy but firm. I'm not the one doing it. You are. I left her there on the sidewalk, trembling in the cold. Later that night, Kristen asked me if I regretted it. I stared at the fire helmet on her mantelpiece, the one I'd carried from my house. Its metal gleamed in the lamplight, a reminder of who I'd been and who I still was. No, I said finally, because mercy without truth isn't mercy. It's weakness. And she already took enough of that from me. But my resolve was tested sooner than I expected. 2 days later, I got a call. The voice was Philip's, low and smug, though I heard the strain under it. You think you're winning, Parker? Think again. You turned her against me, so now I'll turn the whole damn town against you. Let's see how proud you feel when everyone believes you forged that ticket. The line went dead before I could answer, and at that moment, I realized the game wasn't just about Amanda anymore. Philip was setting fire to everything, and I was the only one left who could put it out. Philip didn't waste time. Within days, whispers about me spread through town like brush fire in a dry summer. At the diner, 2 old friends wouldn't meet my eyes. At the hardware store, a clerk who'd once called me sir, with respect suddenly treated me like I was contagious. I overheard one of them mutter, "Forge a ticket. Guess even heroes get greedy." Philip's poison was working. Kristen caught me staring out her kitchen window that evening, jaw clenched. "Don't let him get under your skin," she said. "Everyone who matters knows who you are." I wanted to believe her, but it stung. Hearing my name dragged to the mud after a lifetime of sacrifice, I'd run into burning houses, carried strangers out on my shoulders. And now I was a thief. Trevor was sharper about it. Let him talk. Noise fades. The commission doesn't care about gossip. They care about evidence. And you've got it. Don't engage, Parker. Don't give him the satisfaction. Still, the silence hurt. At night, I walked the town streets, helmet tucked under my arm. The weight of it steadied me. It reminded me of nights after a fire, when the world was quiet and scarred but still standing. That's what I was now. Scarred but standing. Amanda didn't call again. She must have heard the rumors too, maybe even believed them. Or maybe Philip had convinced her to. Either way, her silence was another wound, sharp and deep. Then came the notice. The commission would convene in 3 days. Trevor handed me the letter, crisp and official. "This is it," he said. "The hearing. They'll review everything. If all goes as it should, they'll declare you the rightful owner." I nodded, the words sinking and slow. "And if it doesn't?" He didn't flinch. "Then Philip wins. And Amanda keeps sinking with him." The weight of it pressed on my chest. 3 days. 3 days until my name was either restored or buried. The night before the hearing, Kristen made dinner. We sat on her porch, the cicadas buzzing, fireflies blinking in the dark. She poured me a drink and raised her glass. "To truth," she said. I lifted mine, though my hand trembled, to fire that burns the lies away. But as the night deepened, I noticed headlights again. A car parked across the street, engine humming low. Watching. Kristen stiffened. "Him again?" I nodded, my stomach tight. Philip wasn't just poisoning my name in public. He was keeping me under his thumb, trying to wear me down. I stood in the yard, helmet in hand, and stared straight at the car. The window rolled down just enough for a cigarette ember to glow in the dark. Then the engine revved and the car sped off into the night. It was meant to rattle me. But instead, it reminded me of the men I'd faced in burning buildings, the ones who panicked, who let fear choke them. Philip was panicking. That meant I was closer than ever. Still, I couldn't shake the thought. Desperate men don't go quietly. And if Philip had one more card to play, I knew he'd use it before the commission could end the game. The hearing was held in a gray government building that smelled of old paper and disinfectant. Rows of chairs lined the hall, filled with townsfolk hungry for spectacle. Some had once shaken my hand at parades. Now they whispered, eyes sharp with judgment. I walked in with Trevor beside me. He carried files, affidavits, copies of my photo. I carried nothing but the fire helmet under my arm. A symbol, a reminder. Amanda was already seated at the far table. She looked brittle, her hair unkempt, her hands trembling as she clutched a folder that seemed too thin to save her. When our eyes met, hers darted away. Philip arrived last, striding in with forced bravado. A smirk curled his lips as he took a seat beside Amanda, though he didn't touch her. Not anymore. The commissioners entered, solemn men and women who carried the weight of decision. One of them spoke, his voice echoing. We are here to determine rightful ownership of the winning lottery ticket, contested between Parker Wells and his daughter, Amanda Wells. The air grew heavy. Trevor rose first. He laid out the photo, my signature visible, dated before Amanda's claim. He presented receipts, timelines, even testimony from the store clerk who remembered me buying the ticket. Then Amanda's turn came. Her voice shook as she read from her folder. The ticket was given to me. My father, he wanted me to have it. That's why my name. Her words stumbled. Even she didn't sound convinced. Philip leaned close, whispering something. She stiffened, then raised her chin, forcing confidence. My father's memory is failing. He doesn't remember what he did. The crowd stirred. I felt heat rise in my chest, but Trevor's hand on my arm steadied me. When the commissioners asked for my response, I stood, helmet in hand. I'm maybe 62, but I remember every fire I ever fought. I remember every life I pulled from smoke. And I remember signing the back of that ticket. Clear as I remember the day my daughter was born. To say I've forgotten is an insult not just to me, but to every sacrifice I've made. Silence followed. Amanda's face crumpled, tears spilling. She dropped her gaze, shame burning through her. Philip, though, he smiled wider. When it was his turn, he stood, voice smooth. With respect, commissioners, this is not about memories. This is about evidence. And evidence can be forged. A photo? Anyone can edit a photo these days. What if Parker is manipulating you? What if he signed the ticket after Amanda and not before? Gasps rippled. He knew exactly how to plant out. I gripped the helmet tighter. For a moment, fear flickered in me. Fear that his poison might seep into this room too. Then Trevor rose again, calm and precise. We anticipated that claim. Here are the metadata logs from Mr. Wells' phone, showing the photo's timestamp, taken before Ms. Wells ever touched the ticket. He placed the document in front of the commissioners. Their eyes scanned, nods exchanged. Philip's smirk wavered, just slightly. Amanda buried her face in her hands. Public, undeniable humiliation. Still, Philip whispered to her, urgent now, like a gambler doubling down on a losing hand. Don't quit. Fight. She didn't lift her head. The chief commissioner cleared his throat. We will recess for deliberation. A decision will be announced within the week. The gavel struck. The crowd buzzed, voices rising like a hive. As I left the chamber, helmet under my arm, I felt Philip's eyes on me, and when I turned, he mouthed two words, lips curling in a snarl. Not over. The days after the hearing stretched like years. The commission recessed, but the town didn't. Every grocery store, every gas station, every diner became a theater where my name and Amanda's were on everyone's lips. Some of the whispers had shifted. People were starting to see through Philip's performance. But doubt lingered like smoke in the rafters, stubborn, choking. Amanda couldn't escape it. I heard she'd been turned away from the country club, her membership revoked. Former friends stopped returning calls. Worse, neighbors watched openly when the bank repossessed her car. A woman who once strutted through town now walked with her head down, each step a public trial. It should have satisfied me. Part of it did. But another part, the father still buried deep, felt the ache of watching her unravel. Philip, though, reacted differently. He slithered. One evening, Trevor called me. His voice was clipped urgent. Philip's been reaching out to some of the commissioners. Nothing official, but he's offering incentives. Money, promises, trying to sway the vote. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles whitened. Can he? Legally? No, but pressure works. If he makes enough noise, someone might flinch. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at Kristen's kitchen table, the fire helmet before me. Its metal gleamed under the lamp, scarred, worn, honest. It had survived infernos. It reminded me that the truth does too. Kristen touched my arm gently. You can't control his poison, Parker. You can only keep standing. I nodded, though my chest burned. Standing was all I'd ever done, but standing hadn't saved my marriage, hadn't saved my daughter. Now I wondered if it would save my name. 2 days later, Amanda showed up at Kristen's door. No warning, no call, just her, pale and shaking, clutching a crumpled piece of paper. Dad. Her voice was small, broken. I can't fight anymore. Kristen stepped aside, hesitant, but I gave a short nod. Amanda came in, sat at the table. She laid the paper down. A letter, handwritten, smudged with tears. It's for you, she whispered. For after the commission rules. I wanted you to know the truth. I didn't touch it. I just stared. Truth would have been telling them in that room. Her shoulders shook. I was scared. Philip kept pushing me. He said if I gave in, I'd lose everything. But I already did, and it's my fault. I studied her, searching for sincerity. For the first time, I thought I saw it. Not greed, not defiance. Just a hollow shell of the girl I once knew. Before I could speak, headlights swept across the window. A car slowed out outside. Amanda flinched. It's him, she whispered. I rose, stepping to the door. The engine revved, then faded into the night. Philip, watching, circling. When I turned back, Amanda's eyes pleaded with me. Dad, he won't stop. He'll destroy us both. I finally picked up the letter. The paper trembled in my hands. And in that moment, I realized something. Amanda was no longer my opponent. She was Philip's pawn, and Philip was about to make his final move. Amanda stayed the night at Kristen's, curled up on the couch like a runaway. I could hear her restless movements long after midnight, every sigh cutting through the walls. For the first time in weeks, I felt less like her enemy and more like the father she'd lost along the way. But peace never lasts when Philip's involved. The next morning, I found an envelope taped to Kristen's front door. My name scrawled across it in rushed black ink. Inside, photos. Grainy shots of me leaving Trevor's office. Me and Kristen on her porch. Amanda at the cafe crying into her hands. Scrawled on the back of each photo were words in Philip's sharp hand. Fraud. Manipulator. Abuser. Kristen's jaw tightened as she flipped through them. He's not just following you. He's building a story. A story meant to poison the commission, to poison the town. Later that day, I spotted him outside the courthouse, loud and theatrical. He'd gathered a handful of people around him, spinning his tail like a carnival barker. The old man's desperate, folks. Faked a photo, dragged his own daughter through the mud. That's not justice, that's cruelty. And then, the knife twist. He held up a framed copy of Amanda's forged signature on the ticket. Proof she was always meant to have it. Gasps. Whispers. Phones lifted to snap pictures. Amanda, standing beside me, froze. Her cheeks burned crimson as the crowd turned to look at her. Pity and scorn mixed in their eyes. For weeks she clung to the illusion of control. But here, under Philip's spotlight, it shattered. Stop, she cried, her voice raw. You don't care about me. You never did. The crowd silenced. Philip blinked, caught off guard. Amanda stepped forward, trembling, but loud enough for every ear. You used me. You took everything I had left. And when the money was gone, you left too. You're nothing, Philip, nothing but a leech. Gasp again. A murmur rippled through the onlookers. For the first time, Philip looked small. His smirk faltered, and I knew this was the first public crack in his armor. Still, he wasn't finished. He leaned close to Amanda, voice low but venomous, though I heard every word. You think siding with him saves you? You'll both go down. Mark it. Amanda recoiled. The crowd saw it. And in that instant, the tide shifted. That night, Kristen poured coffee as Amanda sat at our table, silent, ashamed. I placed the helmet on the counter, where she couldn't avoid looking at it. Its steel gleamed, scratched and scarred, a reminder of the fires I'd survived. You don't fight fire by begging it to stop, I said quietly. You starve it. You cut off its fuel. That's what Philip is. Fuel. And tomorrow, we cut him off for good. Amanda's eyes met mine, red but steady. For once, she didn't argue. But as I prepared for Commission's final ruling, I couldn't shake Philip's last words. He wasn't bluffing. He had one more move left. And when desperate men play their last card, someone always gets burned. The morning of the ruling, the courthouse steps buzzed with voices. Reporters, neighbors, strangers, all drawn by the spectacle of a family torn apart by fortune. I walked through the crowd with Trevor at my side, helmet under my arm. The weight of it steadied me like a hand on my shoulder. Amanda trailed behind us, silent. She wore no makeup, no mask, just the raw face of someone who had nothing left to lose. Her eyes never lifted from the ground. Philip, on the other hand, thrived on the attention. He strutted up the steps in a new suit, flashing a smile too wide for his face. Cameras turned, and he raised Amanda's forged signature high like a trophy. Today, he declared, we'll see justice served. The words dripped with irony. Inside, the commissioners filed into their seats. The air was tense, like the hush before fire consumes the oxygen in a room. The chief commissioner spoke. We have reviewed the evidence thoroughly. Mr. Parker Wells has presented a photograph of the winning lottery ticket, bearing his signature, time-stamped prior to Ms. Amanda Wells' claim. Additional testimonies and receipts corroborate his account. A pause. The room held its breath. It is the judgment of this commission that Parker Wells is the rightful owner of the winning ticket. The gavel struck. Final. Unshakable. The room erupted. Some in applause, some in gasps. I closed my eyes, breathing in the sound like fresh air after smoke. My name restored. My truth vindicated. Amanda broke. Tears spilled as she sank into her chair, her body shaking. For the first time, I saw her stripped of pride, stripped of greed, just a daughter crushed under the weight of her own choices. Philip, though, he snapped. He jumped to his feet, shouting over the noise. Fraud. Lies. You're all blind. This old man manipulated the whole process. His face twisted red, spit flying as he raged. The commissioners ignored him. Reporters, however, turned their cameras. His meltdown was the story now. Amanda covered her face, humiliated in front of everyone. Stop, Philip, she whispered, but he was beyond reason. You'll regret this, Parker, he roared, pointing at me, his voice cracking. You think this is over? I'll ruin you. 2 officers stepped forward, escorting him out as he cursed and kicked. The cameras captured every second, his unraveling laid bare for the entire town. I stood, lifting the helmet so it gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Not a word left my mouth. I didn't need them. The truth had already spoken for me. Outside, the crowd swarmed. Some clapped me on the back. Others nodded with quiet respect. Amanda followed a few steps behind, her head bowed, ignored by those who once courted her favor. Her silence was punishment enough. That night, back at Kristen's, I set the helmet on the table and poured myself a drink. She raised her glass. To justice. But even as the burn slid down my throat, I knew Philip wasn't finished. His threats still echoed. And desperate men don't fade away. They ignite. The victory was real, but it wasn't the end. The final fire was still coming. The commission's ruling should have been the end. By law, by fact, by truth, it was finished. But Philip wasn't a man who respected endings. He clawed at scraps like a rat in a burning building. 2 days later, Kristen handed me the morning paper. His face was splashed across the front page. Local man claims cover-up in lottery case. He'd given interviews, raving about conspiracies, painting himself as the victim of a crooked commission and a manipulative old man. He's digging his own grave, Kristen muttered, tossing the paper aside. But I knew better. Desperate men sometimes pull others down with them. That afternoon, Amanda showed up again. Not at Kristen's this time, but at the old firehouse where I still kept a locker. I found her sitting on the back steps, arms wrapped around her knees. "Dad," she said softly when I approached. Her voice was hoarse, worn. "I read the ruling. I saw the papers. Everyone knows now. They look at me like I'm dirt." Her eyes lifted to mine, shimmering. "I just wanted to stop. I want to disappear. Can you help me? Just enough to get away from here." I leaned against the railing, studying her. The girl who once laughed in my living room, calling me worthless, was gone. What sat before me was a shadow, thin, cracked, begging. "I don't know if I can help you," I said quietly. "Not with money, not with escape. But if you want my forgiveness, it won't come from running. It'll come from facing the truth." She swallowed hard, then pulled a folded paper from her jacket pocket, the same letter she'd shown me before, but this time she pushed it into my hands. "Then read it. Read it when you're ready. That's all I can give." I didn't promise her anything. I just tucked the paper into my coat and walked her to the street. She left without looking back. That night, Trevor called. "Be alert. Philip's not done. He's been sniffing around for dirt. Old medical records, department files, anything he can twist. He's trying to smear your service record now." My jaw tightened. 30 years of smoke, sweat, and sacrifice reduced to another pawn in his game. I set the phone down and went to the shelf where the fire helmet sat. I ran a hand over its scar metal, the scratches that told a story of every blaze I'd walked through. "He wants a fire," I murmured to myself. "Then he'll get one." Kristen came into the room, watching me. "What are you planning?" I met her eyes. "Not planning, preparing. He wants to drag this fight into the dirt. I'll drag it into the light." She nodded slowly. "Then you better be ready, because men like Philip don't go down clean." Outside, thunder rolled across the horizon. Storm clouds gathered, heavy and dark. And I knew the final confrontation was coming. Not in courts, not in commissions, but in the open, where truth and lies would clash once and for all. And this time, I wouldn't just defend myself. I'd end it. I didn't sleep the night the thunder rolled in. I sat with the helmet on my knees, listening to the storm rake its nails across the roof. Philip wanted to drag me into the mud. Fine, I'd bring him into the light. By morning I had a plan. Not a brawl in an alley, not a whisper to a whisper. Public, clean, undeniable. I called the captain at the old house and asked to host a community safety night. "Retired or not, Parker," he said, "your name still fills a room." "Good. Let it." Kristen handled the flyers. Trevor arranged for a small podium and a projector. No slogans. No drama. Just fire safety and service night. Open to all. Word travels fast in a town starved for spectacle. By sundown, the bay doors were rolled up and folding chairs filled the engine room. Reporters came too, sniffing for smoke. I walked out in my old blues, helmet under my arm. The room quieted. The same rafters that once caught our laughter caught my voice now. I spoke about exits and extinguishers, about how fear shortens breath and makes people run toward heat instead of away from it. People listened. They always did when it wasn't about money. Then I said, "One more thing." The projector blinked to life. On the screen, a waveform. I pressed play. The room filled with familiar voice. Slick as oil. "Let's cut the crap," Philip said, over tinny diner clatter. 50-50. She doesn't need to know. A murmur rippled. Chairs creaked. I let the audio run, his sales pitch, his sneer, my refusal. No commentary. Just the sound of the truth. When it ended, I clicked to the next slide. The timestamp metadata. Trevor's affidavit. Then a photo of the envelope he taped to Kristen's door. Fraud. Manipulator. Abuser scrawled across our lives. I didn't point, didn't gloat. Harassment isn't debate, I said. And bribery isn't justice. We provided all of this to the ethics board. The crowd turned as one because Philip had slipped in at the back. Swagger knotted tight, eyes shiny with rage. "You think this proves anything?" he barked. "He doctored that. He's lying to your faces." Someone in the third row, one of the rookies, stood up. We pulled the diner CCTV, sir. The timestamps match. Laughter crackled, low and mean. Then questions. Not for me, for him. Why offer a split if it was hers? Why stalk his house? Where's your proof? Philip's mouth open and closed, words failing him for once. Cameras lifted. The smirk he wore like a shield finally slipped. He lunged for the projector cart. I stepped between. Don't. I said just that. He froze, trapped by a ring of eyes and phones, and his own voice still echoing from the speakers. The captain called. That's enough. 2 firefighters guided him toward the door. He pulled away, stumbled, and went down on one knee. Gasps, a smatter of laughter. His phone skittered across the concrete and stopped at my boot. Public humiliation. Clean as an alarm bell, when the bay door swallowed him, the engine room exhaled. I took a breath I felt in my bones. Remember your drills, I said, and the room laughed, softer this time, then clapped, not wild, not giddy. Solid. Respect that way what it applauded. After, people lined up to shake my hand. Some apologized for doubting. I nodded and didn't make them say more. Amanda wasn't there. I was almost glad. Tonight wasn't about her. It was about heat meeting air and going out. We packed up late. Rain had washed the streets clean. Kristen drove while I cradled the helmet, the bay lights shrinking in the rear view like tired stars. My phone buzzed. Trevor. Ethics board acknowledged receipt. Stay sharp. I texted back a single word. Always. Kristen turned into her driveway. The porch light was on. The door was not. It hung open an inch, breathing. We traded a look. I stepped first. The living room was neat, quiet, wrong. A draft moved the curtains. The kitchen clock ticked too loud. Nothing broken, nothing taken. Until my eyes went to the mantel. The helmet was gone. On the brick where it sat for weeks lay a slip of paper, torn from a spiral pad, soaked at one edge by the rain that had crept under the door. For words in a hand I knew too well. Now you have nothing. The words rang through the house like a siren, and for the first time since this began, I felt heat rise in me that wasn't memory. It was a promise. The slip of paper trembled in my hands. Now you have nothing. The words weren't just taunts. They were theft. The helmet was more than steel. It was 30 years of ash and sweat, the weight of lives saved, the last piece of me Amanda hadn't managed to strip away. And now Philip had it. Kristen stood frozen in the doorway, her face pale. Parker, what does it mean? It means he's done playing games. I tucked the note into my jacket. My chest burned not with fear, but with a steady fire of purpose. Philip thought stealing that helmet would break me. What he didn't understand was that it bound me tighter to the fight. The next morning, Trevor called. His voice was clipped, almost out of breath. The board has Philip's bribery attempt on record now. They're preparing charges, witness tampering, harassment, but he's still out there. Parker, watch yourself. I'm not the one who should be worried, I said, and ended the call. Amanda showed up not an hour later, standing in Kristen's yard like a ghost. Her eyes darted everywhere, as if Philip might lunge from the hedges. He has it, doesn't he? She asked before I said a word. The helmet, I confirmed. Tears filled her eyes. Dad, he's unhinged. You have to end this before someone gets hurt. Her voice cracked, and I realized she wasn't just talking about herself. She was talking about me. For the first time since this all began, she was afraid for me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Amanda, listen to me. You can't undo what you did, but you can choose what you do next. Philip doesn't control you anymore. He never did. If you want to save what little dignity you've got left, you stand with me now. She looked at me, searching, torn. Then she whispered, What do I have to do? Tell the truth, I said, publicly. Not to me, not in a letter. To everyone. Her breath caught. They'll crucify me. They already have, I said. The only thing left is whether you crawl or you stand. That night, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Philip's number. His voice was thick, the edges frayed. You want your little hat back, hero? Come get it. I'll be waiting. The line went dead. Kristen's hand clutched mine. "Don't," she pleaded. "It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap," I said. "But it's the last one." Amanda stood behind her, pale, shaking. "Dad, please. Let it go. It's just a helmet." I turned, my voice sharper than I meant. "It's not just a helmet. It's me. It's every man I pulled from the flames. Every oath I kept when it nearly killed me. He thinks he can erase that. He can't." The room went silent. Rain began to patter against the windows again, steady and cold. I looked down at my hands, scarred and strong. 62 years had taken their toll, but the fire inside me hadn't dimmed. Philip had taken my home, my name, my daughter, my peace. Now he wanted my honor, and if he thought I'd let him keep it, he had no idea what kind of man he was dealing with. I stood, grabbing my coat. "It ends tomorrow," I said. Kristen's voice broke behind me. "And if it doesn't?" I paused at the door, looking out into the storm. Then neither of us walks away untouched. The wind rattled the windows as I stepped into the night, the note burning in my pocket like a brand. Tomorrow, Philip would learn what it meant to steal from a man who'd already walked through hell. Philip texted an address at dawn, my old house. Of course, the place where he declared I had nothing. The place he wanted to turn into a stage for his victory lap. I didn't go alone. I called Trevor. I called the captain. I called the officer who'd taken the harassment report. "I'm meeting him." I said, "I'll keep it calm. You keep it legal." They told me to wait. I told them I'd been waiting since the night my own daughter threw me out. We agreed on a plan. I'd wear a recorder, keep the line open, give them a reason to step in. By dusk, the sky was the color of ash. The front door hung open like a mouth. Inside, the rooms were bare. No furniture, just the echo of footsteps and the damp scent of rain through cracked windows. And there, in the middle of the living room where Amanda had laughed at me weeks ago, stood Philip. He held my helmet by the rim, swinging it lazily. "Wasn't hard," he said. "Door, lock, whatever. When a man's got nothing, doors open easy." I stepped closer, steady as a clock. "Put it down." He grinned. "Or what? You go to wrestle me for it. Old man, you'll lose. You always do." He lifted a lighter, flicked it. Flame licked the air. "Maybe I give you a little trophy and new finish." "Don't do that," I said. Calm, even. "That helmet earned its scars. You didn't." He laughed, but his hand shook. "I made you. Without me, you're just another tired relic in a town that forgot you. You think I'm forgotten?" I tipped my head, listening. In the distance, a siren rose, faint and growing. Listen closer. Something flickered in his eyes. He doused the flame with a snap, mask slipping. "You wired." "No," I said, and let the silence hang a beat. "I'm honest." Headlights swept across the bare walls. Tires crunched in the wet gravel. Philip's swagger crumpled at the edges. Before the door filled with uniforms, a small shape slid out of the hallway. Amanda, pale, steady, shoulders squared as if she borrowed the spine she'd thrown away. She looked at me, then at Philip. Her voice was hoarse but clear. "He forged nothing," she said. "I lied. I let you convince me to sign what wasn't mine. I let you talk about bribes and blackmail. I let you turn me into something I'm not." Philip lunged toward her. I stepped between. He stopped short, eyes wild. "You little." The officers entered, rain gleaming on their jackets. One of them spoke, crisp as a gavel. "Philip Kerr, you're under arrest for harassment, attempted bribery, and burglary." The cuffs clicked. Cameras flashed from the porch. Neighbors had gathered behind the squad cars, the way people do when they smell smoke. Philip tried for a last performance. Chin high, smile forced, but the metal bit his wrists and the smirk broke. Third time the mask came off, and this time it didn't go back on. As they let him pass me, he twisted his neck, spitting words that hit the floor like sparks. "You think this saves you? You have nothing, Parker, nothing." I lifted the helmet from the packing blanket, where he dropped it. It felt right in my hands. Weight, balance, the faint smell of soot that never really goes away. I looked him in the eye, not angry, not gloating. Just done. No, I said, I have my name. They took him into the rain. The neighborhood murmured, the way a crowd does after the flames go out. Soft, relieved, a little stunned. The siren faded. The house went quiet. Amanda stood in the doorway, shaking. She held out the letter, the one she'd given me twice, and I hadn't read. It won't fix anything, she whispered, but it tells the truth. I slid it into my jacket. Truth fixes more than you think, I said. Not today, but it starts. Her mouth trembled. I don't deserve forgiveness. Probably not, I answered and didn't soften it. But you can earn respect again, one day at a time, without shortcuts. She nodded, eyes wet. No hug, no tidy music cue, just a choice hanging in the air between us like a held note. Later at Kristen's, I wiped the rain from the helmet and set it back on the mantel. Same spot, different meaning. The metal caught the lamplight and threw it around the room. Quiet, steady enough. I opened Amanda's letter. Her handwriting stumbled through confession and apology. Not for show this time, not for leverage. It ended with 4 words that were heavier than any bribe. I was wrong, Dad. I folded the paper, slid it under the helmet's brim like a liner. Kristen poured coffee and didn't say a thing. Outside, the gutters ticked with the last of the storm. People will say I won because a commission stamped a ruling and a crook went to jail. That's not why. I won because when they told me I had nothing, I didn't believe them. I stood in the smoke until it cleared. I made the truth louder than the noise. In the morning, I'll call about buying back the house. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Some fires you don't rebuild from. You plant something new in the ash. Before I turned in, I ran a hand over the helmet one last time. Its scars were still there, same as mine. Only now they meant something else. You think I've got nothing left? I said into the quiet, the words finally free. You were always wrong. The old room held the sound, and then let it go. The night smelled like rain instead of smoke. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.